Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Product Crew Talk here at Uplifting. And I welcome you both here at our office and at home by your computers. And today we'll talk about products. And I believe you all know the phrase minimum viable product. And today we have a guest here, Roman from Uplifting, who will talk about how to make the product minimum but still viable. So, Roman, take the stage.
Who came to visit us in person, and I would like to welcome those who are present online. Hello, internet people. When I was getting ready for this talk, I have thought about how do I approach it, because this topic is very close to me, and I was afraid that I will say too much in a way, in a sense that I could confuse you, and so I'll try to limit myself and make it as short and concise as I could. But if you feel confused at any point during my presentation, just raise your hand, or for the online people, just post a question into Zoom, and interrupt me and ask any question you have at that moment. So I would like to start kick off my presentation with something that a dear colleague of me mentioned last time, because this is the second project validation meetup. In the last talk of the first meetup, a colleague, Jan Minarik, who's also present here today, mentioned this idea that when you're trying to create products, it's a complex problem. And the issue with complex problem or their solving is that it is difficult, if not impossible, to identify or spot any cause and effect relationship, any causality beforehand. And so what you need to do is to create or conduct experiments. And only after those experiments, when you thoroughly examine the results, ex post you can find or identify causality or relationship as to cause and effect to certain things like customer behavior. And so I just like to mention that because it's a very important thing to bear in mind. My presentation is called Adopting Unscalable Approaches to Product Validation. And what it really means is for those experiments, you should ideally use MVPs, minimum viable products, as a means of that experiment, and to measure the reaction of customers on your minimum viable product. And so before we actually dive in and we talk more about those minimum viable products that we like to use or that are really good to use when you want to validate a product, I would like to ask you we have some technical difficulties. I'm sorry about that. So the first thing I would like to do is I would like to ask you, and you can use Slido to answer that question. I would like to ask you, what comes to your mind when I say minimum viable product? What comes to your mind when I say MVP and the purpose of the MVP. So I will give you like a minute to think about it. And you can either use Slido, or if you don't like to use Slido, you can just raise your hand and shout whatever you have in mind. And while you will answer this question, I would like to just say, why do I ask in the first place? And I would like to tell you a short story of what happened to us, a few weeks back. We had this meeting with a client, and we were actually discussing the roadmap of, of our work and the product launch and stuff. And we, mentioned MVP, and we were trying to identify when do we launch our first minimum viable product. And some people said, we should do it within a month, we should do it in 3 months, and some even mentioned 1 year. And at that point, I realized that even though we all know what MVP stands for in that room, we all think about it in a very different way, which could be very dangerous when you plan to execute or to validate product and execute any project. And so I would just like to, that's the reason why I ask you to kind of know how you think about MVPs in general. Some of the answers are really good. Too big, but still validate the core idea. Okay, the first one is really good. Experiment. The point of asking you is also that I would like to use this presentation not as a lecture and telling you what is right or wrong, but I would like to approach this talk in the sense of more of an academic debate. The things that I will introduce and I will talk about are not set in stone. They are not the only and right things to validate a product or create MVP. And I really believe that many people are stuck with the MVP definition, and that you should actually build some kind of a product in sense of lines of code or physical thing. And instead of defining MVPs and potentially saying what's the difference between MVP and prototype, what's the difference between MVP and proof of concept, I would like to think about MVP about more of an abstract concept, so to speak. So I believe that it doesn't matter what form the MVP actually has or shape. What I believe is that you should create anything that will help you to get objective truth and learning about the customers you're trying to serve, about their needs, their problems, or even about the market in general. And it should just basically move you closer to the point where you're confidently able to say, okay, we should pursue, we should actually build this idea into a product, or say, okay, I'm out of it. This ain't gonna work. So thank you for your answers. I will definitely go through them. I saw some really, really good ideas or definitions of how you think about MVPs. I really like it. So the first minimum viable product that I would like to introduce you to is so-called concierge MVP. And what it actually is, it involves helping customers to accomplish certain goal as a means of validating whether or not there is a certain need or want for the product. And the customer usually know that you're the human who is operating the product and who is guiding him on his journey. So in a sense, concierge MVP is basically you taking your target customer by hand and guiding him through a certain experience, certain journey, if you like. And what you need to do is to fish for any additional insights. So does the process work? Does it work well? Do I bring value at all? At which point do I bring value? And eventually, is the customer actually willing and able to pay me for this journey, this process, this product? An example of such MVP is either Airbnb or food on a table. And now again, there's like, in the nutshell, concierge MVP has, a definition, but in a practice, all the things kind of blur and the boundaries and borders disappear, and you can combine, certain approaches to MVPs and such. But a really like a gold example, gold standard of such an MVP in practice is the food on the table product. So initially, or nowadays, the product is a platform where you can create your weekly meal plans and ingredients list. The platform hooks you up to supermarkets around your location, showing you the best deals with regards to those ingredients you actually listed. And you can select, all you need to do is to select the meal you want to cook that week, and it will just buy the ingredients and deliver the ingredients to your home so that you can just grab them and cook the meal. That's how it works today. And it could be quite hard to imagine how can you actually go and physically execute that. So what the founders actually did was they actually went on their own to a supermarket and they basically interviewed every single person they came across. After this interview, they presented their product or their future product. They expressed the benefits of it, and towards the end of this explanation of what it does and why it's good to use it, they asked for sign up and the money. Of course, it took them a long time to get at least one person who would sign up, but eventually, after days of trying, they got someone on board. And so what they did for this person is they actually visit that person every single day. They gathered the information, they gathered the meal plan, the list of ingredients. They went to local shops. They discovered what they have, in discount prices or in some, bulks. They went back to visit the person. They said what they actually found out in the local markets, what are the best deals. The customer actually chose the meal that he wanted to cook. And so the founder went back, bought all the ingredients, came back and delivered the grocery back to his place. And eventually, after delivering the food, he always got a check of $10. And so by that, he actually proved that the process is working pretty well. He shaped and tuned the process along the way, and he was able to gather some initial money for that. So he discovered that people are actually willing and able to pay for it. So that's the first concept I want to introduce. The next, before that, there are some pros and cons, like everything. The benefit that you can see right away is with Concierge MVP, you don't have to build anything. You can execute the process with pen and paper, just in physical world. And I think we should bear in mind that 95% of our applications that we have in mobile phones are only automated processes that could be, executed in the real world. And that's what it actually is. The problem with this MVP is the fact that it's not for everyone. You have to be quite, extroverted. You need to step out of your comfort zone. And since you're doing everything manually, it's time-consuming and potentially, exhausting. So the next MVP that I would like to introduce you to is the Wizard of Oz. I'm sure this is, or it sounds familiar, not just because of the movie, but this is potentially one of the most famous, unscalable approaches that we know. And the idea of it is basically mimicking a certain automated product when the customer trying or using the MVP doesn't know that in fact it's actually executed by real human beings back in the stage. So the customer thinks he's interacting with the actual product. It looks and feels like the actual thing. But backstage there are people who are doing the magic and pulling up the strings. So there are some examples that we can bring up. I think really good example is IBM. When they were creating their speech-to-text software, what they've done actually, they brought people into a room. They had a computer there and a microphone. There was a screen, and there was no keyboard. And so they told them, this software will actually type down everything you say correctly without spelling mistakes. As you speak, it will write everything down for you. And so they did. They tried. So customer sat down and starts to talk into microphone. And there were people in another room typing everything that person said into the microphone. So the customer actually, had this impression that the product actually exists and it works really well. So that's just one example of many. A good example is also Zappos. The founder had this idea that it would be great to actually buy shoes on the internet. So instead of actually physically going to a store and buying shoes, it would be nice to have it online. And so what the founder actually did was he went to local shoe stores and he took photos of shoes. Then he created a very simple landing page or website where he actually posted those photos and the price of them. And when customers found out about this website, they started to order the shoes. And so whenever he got a new order, it would go into his email, and he would actually go physically into the shoe store. He bought the shoes and shipped them to the customer. The customers were absolutely sure that it's fully automated and there is no human being involved. So that's the Wizard of Oz. Again, we have some, pros and cons. I would like to, talk about the cons more than the pros because they're pretty straightforward. But it could be quite hard to actually, get the people behind the curtains or behind in the backstage to actually perform the task the way you need them to perform. So you need to spend some time teaching them how to operate and how to act in certain situations. And it's kind of similar to concierge MVP. Executing the process or certain tasks manually could be very, very demanding for the people operating it, and it could be exhausting. The last MVP or concept that I would like to mention or present you with is a piecemeal MVP. And it's basically as simple as you take already existing products and you compose your new products out of these. As simple as that. The most famous example of that is Groupon, which is, you know, a large e-commerce marketplace which connects subscribers to local merchants selling deals with, you know, goods, traveling, anything you can imagine. And the founder of Groupon had several projects on. He had, you know, grand ambitions, but, you know, majority of the products he built actually eventually failed. And so this time he was determined to make this also great vision extremely simply and as easy as possible without, you know, zero effort almost. And so what he had done was he used the WordPress to actually, you know, rebrand a white label, you know, simple website into Groupon brand. And he was posting deals every single day. And those deals could be, you know, a T-shirt that, you know, comes in one you know, size and one color. It could be 2+1 pizza deals, whatever it may be. But he constantly, every single day, he posts a new deal, and he waited. And whenever someone was interested in that deal, he would actually message via Apple Mail that he wants the deal. So that was another tool he used, the Apple Mail. And in order to create those coupons, he used the FileMaker. So he actually, whenever he got an email that someone is interested in a certain deal, he just created the coupon in the FileMaker and sent it back via email to the customer. As simple as that. And it worked to a certain point, of course. Again, some pros and cons. The biggest pros of this MVP is very time efficient. You don't need much to compose your own new product with existing ones. The problem then is that you need to manage the subscriptions, and it could happen that one of the products you're using to build your own is gonna, you know, exit the market or will, you know, just disappear, and suddenly you need to find a new one. And it's quite hard to kind of keep all the balls in the air. So it could be quite demanding to keep everything, you know, glued together so that it actually works as your product should work. Now, I presented you with three, I believe, most famous or, you know, most frequently used MVPs that don't really scale. And I would like to, you know, spend some time talking about our own experience with these approaches. And we use the Wizard of Oz MVP, and we use the Concierge. I would like to talk about the Concierge MVP because that was a project that I was working on. And if we have some time left, I would like to talk about the other product, even though I wasn't directly involved in that one. So the Concierge MVP was in a product called Lokalove, or Locals, and client approached us, and he had a grand vision of this product that would help local businesses selling their products to people who wanted to support local producers, who like to consume ethically and ecologically created goods, usually food, and to provide them with many other features that I won't even mention, because the grant vision was kind of offering many additional features that weren't really necessary. And they approached us, they presented with their idea, and they asked us if that is a good idea to build. And our response was, we don't know. We don't have any data, to base our judgment upon. And so what we need to do is to experiment. So we initially did some basic customer interviews to find out that like 90% of the features that they plan to build are not necessary, and that we need to really, reshape the idea and kind of, make it way smaller. And it went to a point where we actually realized that it would actually make sense not to build anything at all. And again, because there was a certain process that could be executed in real life, we told them, hey, you have social media and you have your landing page. Why don't you offer locally produced goods on your landing page? And you put a mobile phone there on your landing page and let people phone you. Let people to grab their phone and call you if they need anything or they want anything. They were quite skeptical about that, but they eventually did. So they had a landing page, they put some nice pictures of locally produced goods. It was food mainly, so honey, meat, vegetables, fruits. And they created baskets which contained, a little bit of vegetables, a little bit of meat, and they actually let people to call them if they needed anything or wanted anything. And it was funny because what they actually found is that their primary targeted persona, their primary customers, or at least they thought it will be the primary customers, people that actually travel and visit certain places and they want to enjoy the local food that is produced there, they never called. So it was like not grant failure, but it actually showed them that the initial idea was flawed and they need to pivot. They need to change something. And in this situation where they were kind of disappointed that their idea they really liked, they were into it, doesn't work, soon kind of disappeared because they found out a new way how to actually sell the product. And they discovered that the travelers or individual people don't want to buy these products, but the local hotels, restaurants loved it, and they loved it as a present to their customers. So now what they do, they prove that there is a demand for what they're willing to or wanting to build, but the demand comes from a totally different customer. And so today they have, in a way, working business where they basically provide the locally produced food to restaurants, to hotels, and they're gaining quite a lot of traction nowadays. And it's not huge success. It is success, but it's not. The work is not done. But they actually proved the concept, and they actually spent very little money throughout this experiment. And I don't know how much time I have left. Yeah, I should wrap it up. Okay, never mind. There was one last thing I would like to talk about. It's very important. I haven't mentioned it, before. But before I dive into it, I would like to ask you, who are the early adopters to you, and what you believe is their role in the process of product validation, product creation? And I will use Slido again to have your answers. When you create new innovative products, you always should target the early customers. And sometimes we don't really know who the early adopter is. It could happen. It's a part of the discovery process. But you should always try to aim at the people that seemed most logically as the early adopter. Why? Because early adopters is a special breed of users. The truth is that 99% of people will not sign up for your product. Well, they don't know you. They don't know your product. They never heard about you. They don't know your brand. Why should they spend their effort, resources, money, time to even care about you? That's the 99% of customers. The number of early adopters is very limited. There is actually very few of them. And for this reason, it's also one aspect of this unscalability of these MVPs. When we target early customers or early adopters, there's too little or too few of them, so we can't really build a decent stream of revenue to your business. You can only use them to validate your initial idea, test your hypothesis, tune and adjust the process of your product, and use them to kind of spread the word about your product. Early customers actually have this imagination to kind of fill in the gaps of the missing pieces of your product, and they are always willing to be the first who signs up for the subscription or to use your innovative product. They love to be first because either they just love to get some extra benefit for being the first one, or they feel the pain or the problem you're trying to solve most severely, and so they really crave for solving that, or they just really sympathize with the idea or the vision of the product. So they really love what it represents in a nutshell. And they are usually very suspicious of any extra polished MVPs or products. And so that's the reason also why you shouldn't spend too much time trying to make your MVP amazing. In fact, you should do the opposite. You should use only the minimum effort to create the experience, because customers don't care how much time you spend building anything. They don't care. 1 month, 1 year, don't care. What they care about only is if you are serving the need they have and if you're solving the problem. And for that, you just need to do the minimum effort to create this experience that will prove that the process, the product, actually delivers that value. And with that, I would like to actually finish my presentation. I would like everyone to remember this quote, that if you're not embarrassed when you're launching your first product or first version of it, you're launching too late. And so cherish embarrassment, cherish unscalable or MVPs that doesn't scale, and launch your product way before you're ready to do so. Thank you for your attention, and have a lovely rest of the evening.
Thank you very much, Roman, for the great presentation. We'll be having another speaker in a few seconds, so if you could go prepare with our technician right there. We'll have short questions and answers right now. So if you are on the stream, just write a message and I'll read a question out loud. If any of you here have questions, just shout it out and I'll repeat it for the microphone. And if nobody has questions, I've prepared some, so. So nothing's on the stream right now? Anyone in the audience? No? Well, okay, I'm really curious. Right, go ahead.
How would you integrate the MVP approach in existing software product companies that builds features for their product? So how to validate before the feature is built and integrated in the system, and it has implication on the system and maintained?
Yeah.
Just wait a second, I'll just repeat it for the audience online. So the question is how to validate features for already existing products. So go ahead.
So very good way how to validate features or any changes to existing product is to use A/B testing, and again, as I mentioned at the very beginning of my presentation, I don't want to get into a definition between prototypes and MVPs. I think anything that really gets you to this objective truth about customer behavior and the market is the outcome you want. And so what you could do is actually create A/B testing where in the A landing page or in the A prototype, you don't have the feature, and in the other you have. And then you need to measure certain metrics, and the metrics could be increase of paid subscription. And so you basically empirically examine the effect of this new feature, either in prototype, or it could be just a paragraph explaining what the feature does and what it brings, the value it brings, and just look how the first landing page is doing, and looking at the second landing page, and kind of comparing if the paid subscription increased or if it didn't, and why, and so on. So A/B testing is usually a very good way how to examine the effect of creating new feature or incorporating new feature into existing product.
Okay, thanks for the answer. We still don't have anything on the stream, so any more questions here in the audience? Go ahead.
How do you know the MVP was a success, or how do you change it?
Right.
Sorry, just the question was, how do you evaluate if the MVP was a success?
Yeah. You need to apply certain metrics that will actually link the cost, the change of something, with the effect. And it could be increase of retained customers. It could be increase of paid subscriptions. So what you need to do is actually create this change in your product, and then link the MVP into certain metrics that will measure the effect of this change. So the core of it, or the answer is, apply metrics that will objectively measure the effect of the MVP.
Okay, thanks. So are we prepared for the next speaker? Yeah, okay. 5 minutes, okay. So any more questions here? No?
Maybe one here.
Right, go ahead.
I have a question. which might not even have an answer, but my question, I really like your question that how do you evaluate if you don't have enough data that would be statistically significant for A/B testing, since you really need a lot of data. So if you're in that like very early stage of product, is there any way how to evaluate landing pages?
Right. So the question is, how do you evaluate the data if you don't have enough data?
Well, that's a difficult one. Thank you for that. I think using those early MVPs, those unscalable MVPs, the statistical, significant data is not always necessary. In fact, what you're really doing is, validating the value proposition that you're creating. And since you are also targeting the early customers, you don't really need statistical data to judge whether, you were a success or not. That's the best answer I had.
Okay, we have 3 more minutes, so any more questions? Right?
Well, actually 5 questions on the stream, but I don't know if you can see them.
What was that? In the messages or? Sorry. Well, I don't see them. Can you? Does anybody see the question? Can anyone? I'm sorry, just bear with me for a second. Oh, it's in the Slido. Sorry, I thought it would be on the stream, so just wait a second. Right, so so the first question is, when to decide to work on your product full-time, when it is validated enough?
That's a difficult one. I think you should. Well, it's just my opinion. So don't take it as the ultimate answer to this. But I believe that you should start working full time when you're actually gaining traction that can also create decent stream of revenue, so it makes sense to kind of left everything else or drop everything else and pursue this idea. So what you need is attraction, enough customers consuming your product and getting some decent amount of revenue that's promising that eventually you can break even and be profitable.
Okay, thanks. The next question on the stream is, what about finished software MVP? Is that an MVP or?
Yeah, that's what I actually mentioned at the very beginning of this presentation. Since we are software house, software company, many of my colleagues think of an MVP as actually software. Lines of code and software product. In a sense, it could be MVP, but what I really like to think, how I really like to think about MVP is more abstract. I'd like to, sometimes when we actually build the product, when we actually, write all the lines of code and it actually does what we need to, the software to do, it doesn't mean that it will provide us with the knowledge, with the learning that we need to get to know that it would actually be a successful product. So it could be MVP in a sense, but I like to think about MVP as a means of getting us to this very important validated learning, this objective truth about the market, about the customer behavior, their needs, their wants, and I'm not sure that you can claim that fully developed software, even if it's not perfect and it's not the final product, is an MVP that can absolutely get you this information. I don't know. Maybe sometimes it could, maybe sometimes it can't.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, and this is it. There are some more questions on the stream, for example, about your beautiful hair and where did it go.
Yeah.
But as the next presentation is ready to be started, I would like you to ask you if you have any more questions to write Roman on his email displayed here in the presentation. And thank you very much again.
Thank you very much for your attention and your questions. I really enjoyed it. Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Right. So, as we are switching to computers, you right now know how to create an MVP really cheap and with expending as little effort as possible. And now the next speaker is Dalibor from Startup Box and from Outboxers company. And he will be talking more about how to gather data from the MVP and from validation and how to evaluate this data. So it might be interesting to learn a bit about that as well. But since guys are setting it up still, Roman, where did your beautiful hair go?
It's a problem of aging, you know. So with the age, it comes, losing hair and being bald. So yeah, that's why I'm old. I'm old.
You don't seem to be old.
Thank you.
And I think the album might be ready. No, it's 2 minutes more. Okay. So maybe it's time for jokes, right? I actually don't know any jokes about product development, so...
There are none.
What's the difference between product development and...
It's extremely serious.
...being stuck in a mental institution?
I don't know.
No one? Done none? No? Too harsh?
It's a good
Right.
one.
We'll be back in about a minute. Right, so without further ado, I already introduced Dalibor. So here's Dalibor from Outboxers and Startup Box talking about how to start with product validation. You have the stage.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Just a quick question. Just show me, guys, please, how much energy do you still have? I'm fully energy, and this is really low energy in mice. Everybody's full of energy. That's perfect. So I'll try to introduce myself with this really famous guy, Mark Twain, and his quotation. And it says something like your two most important days in your life. The first when you've been born, the second one when you figured out why. And a couple of years ago, I figured out why I've been born, and this is that my personal mission on this planet is to support entrepreneurial mindset on a local scene. So a lot of stuff I'm trying to do is to help the early stage founders to start their own ventures, and that is also why I'm here. Right now, I'm standing on two pillars. First one is making me money, which is my own company, which is called Outboxers. This is small parallel, like thinking out of the box. And what we do is that we are the design and venture building company, helping the key enterprise clients to start their own venture. And we mostly say that give us weeks and we will verify the idea on the market, or give us 6 months and we will start the company for you or with you. So we are starting with a validation of a concept. If there is a place on the market for that particular idea, who's the key customer for our potential company, then we are establishing the company, hiring the first people, setting up the processes, and after that we are entering the market with a go-to-market strategy. As a small example is that last 3 years I was playing with Škoda Auto Digilab as a key partner when we were starting this particular project called BeRider on the local market. Do you know it? Is somebody using these scooters? Perfect. So if you have some valuable feedback, I'm a big ear for that, and I'll just pass it to our colleagues. So, and the second pillar is what I do is giving back, fulfilling my personal mission, and this is also the reason why I'm here, because with a great company, Uplifting, with a great culture, together we are building this startupbox.cz, which is the digital guide to help you out with starting your own venture. So if you are early stage founder, you can sign up. Everything's for free because we are NGO. We've got on fundraised the money from the Google, which I'm quite happy about and grateful about. So if you are interested for more details, go to startupbox.cz. Also, I've created the physical form, which is called Idea Box. If you are more interested about details, it's here to see it in deeper detail, but what's inside is it's one physical box which will help you out to verify your idea on the market. So it's full of practical tools, it's full of stuff, all of the stuff you need to verify the idea. And also there is a small book, 100-page long book I've written to guide you through the methodology, which is based on the human-centered design. So this is also I'm playing with as a giving back to the market. And the last thing is that I'm a little bit freaky about collecting all the tools and techniques you can use, because I love the analogy that the doctors and the how is the guy called who's cutting the people? The surgeons. The surgeons have their own tools too, right? For example, scalpels. They are not reinventing the scalpels. They already are using the tools somebody else came up with. And why we, as a product designers or entrepreneurs, are again already reinventing the wheel if there is a lot of tools and techniques we can reuse or reuse as a best practice. So I'm collecting them. So on the showhow.cz you can partially see my database, and it will be more and more tools. And today I would like to share with you 3 of them. I've selected because I think these 3 things are for the verifying the idea on the market are really important. First one is focus. Second one is systematic validation. And the third one is measuring the emotions within the target audience. So I would like to share 3 practical tools with you today. And if you are interested for more, go to showhow.cz. So focus. I'll start with this guy because everybody knows him. And before he died, he was interviewed by, I think, Forbes. And they asked him, hey, what's your biggest success in your life? And he a little bit surprisingly answered that the biggest success in his life is not an iPad or iPhone, but it's a lot of things I haven't done. And I totally agree that entrepreneurship or product design is about saying no to a lot of ideas you have in your head. And how to do it is, there is a lot of techniques. The most simplistic one is called priority cross. If you are interested for more, for example, priority poker or priority scorecards, just catch me after that or friend me on LinkedIn and I'll share those canvases. But this one is really, really simple. Is somebody using it? 1, 2, okay. For the others, I'll just quick introduction. In here, it's available for download. It's in Czech language and in English language, so just scan the QR code or probably the presentation will be available after the event, right? Yeah, perfect. So we will share the presentation. You can download it afterwards. So there are 2 axes. First one, the added value, and the second one, the implementation estimate. Thanks to this, there are 4 quadrants. First one is if you have a really high added value, but really low implementation estimate, you should do it straight away because it's a quick win, right? You have added value almost for nothing. If you have a lot of added value, but also the money, the capacity you need to put in to make it happen is really high, you need to strategically plan it. Fight over it with your colleagues because resources of a company are really valuable all the time. And the bottom line is, if you have a low value, but also low implementation, it doesn't mean that you need to drop it straight away, but you can delegate it. For example, if you have some kind of intern or somebody in a company who needs to learn more, just put it there. They will learn something, but it's not critical for the company, and this one is probably obvious, low added value, and really high estimate. It doesn't make sense to do it at all. So I was just considering a small example that you are, for example, running some e-commerce company. So conversion rate optimization for you has some particular added value, but the implementation estimate is not so extreme. So this is particular or concrete example of a quick win. So let's do it straight away. Or designing and implementing new e-shop platform. It's a little bit exhausting, so you need to plan it strategically. And for example, last example is VR game company add-on, which is a great idea, but not now, because right now there is not so many headsets adopted on the market yet. So a lot of effort putting into low added value to the company doesn't make sense now. So maybe in the future. So quick example how you can use it. My recommendation is that this is really well-known a tool, and you can use it ideally with your team, because the added value of this technique is not that you are taking the piece of paper and writing it down or only with yourself, but use it as a team technique. It means when you have your board or advisory board, put them in a meeting room and discuss over or in front of the flip chart, which is there. Draw the lines and discuss, because there is the added value of the tool within the discussion with your colleagues, not as an output of a couple of post-its. Systematic validation. Again, Guy, you probably know, all of you. Famous quotation is that idea of Eureka moment is a dangerous lie. That he's trying to tell you that everything is a systematic way, verifying all the tools, all the ways, all the, missteps you can do. And if it's a good way, move forward. If it's not a good way, go back and start over. So, do you know validation board? Somebody know validation board? It seems to be a little bit complicated from the first side, but it's not. Let's go through it a little bit together. So as Mark Zuckerberg said, everything is not a eureka moment, it's an iteration. So as you can see, it is a change log. If you are verifying or during the verification of your hypothesis, you are moving from the start stage to the second, third, and so on. Then there are all the hypotheses about your target audience, about your users and the customers. Then there are hypotheses about their problems. What do you think that they are experiencing and expecting from the solution of their problem? Then they are hypotheses about the solution of their problems. At the bottom of a tool, there are experiments you are designing, because when you have dozens of things or hypotheses or assumptions you can do, the output is 5, 7, 10, maybe again dozens of experiments you can do to verify those hypotheses. And the last part are results. So when you are getting out of the office, you are getting the information, hey, this is true, this is valid, and this is invalid assumption we had. And together it works like this, that you will just sit down, write all your hypotheses about who, their problems, their solutions. It's a lot of hypotheses. Then you are designing the experiments, selecting the most important ones. There is a helping question when I ask you, hey, just pick up 1, 2, 3 hypotheses which can kill your own business or kill your future you are just envisioning in your head. Select them, do the experiment, execute it, get the results, validated, invalidated. FII, invalidated results are important too, because if you just onboard the new product manager or new part of the team, they need to know what you've tried out and doesn't work. So my recommendation, and then you are going back and starting the new iteration. So my recommendation is for you, if you are a product thinking company, print it out for, I don't know, paper size A0, put it on the wall, and do the stand-up or product meeting with your team in front of the validation board, because everybody knows why we are doing that, what's the output of that, whether it was a wrong hypothesis about the user, product, or service, or your solution. So this is another simple technique, which seems to be complicated, but after you will start using it, it's, again, a nice tool to synchronize whole team around your product and why you are experimenting like this. And the third tool I'd like to share with you today is about measuring emotions. Because is somebody of you measuring NPS? No? Okay. One. Net promoter scores, how much satisfied your customers are. But the disadvantage of this NPS is that you are measuring only the result, but you would like to understand how it's happening. So you probably know this guy, he's a Nobel Prize laureate. He has written this famous book called Thinking Fast and Slow. And he and his colleagues came up with the research that there is some kind of golden rule called peak and rule. Who knows it? One, okay. And peak and rule says something like, hey, when there are two peaks, first, somewhere in the middle, this is the customer journey. Yeah? He knows something, considering buying, he has bought it, using it, and so on. In your service or product, it looks like differently, right? For uplifting, it means there is a release, first MVP, and there is an invoice, and the customer needs to be super happy about the invoice at the end, right? And so you can measure how they are feeling during the customer journey. And this peak and rule says that if during that there is a positive, high positive, strong positive emotion during that, that's okay if there will be average or some negative emotions during that. Because if you end with, again, strong emotion at the end, Daniel Kahneman says that there are two selves. First one is experiencing self, and the second one is remembering self. And this experiencing self is that guy standing right here using or enjoying the full energy of the positive emotion. But the remembering self, this doesn't happen at all. He remembers something blurry as its whole, right? And you would like to, for your end customer, to bring for the remembering self so positive output that your NPS, Net Promoter Scores, will be high. But firstly, you need to understand how the NPS, Net Promoter Scores, has been created. Not as a simple metric, but as understanding what's happening during the customer journey. So this simple tool is called emotional seismograph. Again, my question, somebody is using that? None? Okay. Again, available in Czech and English for download. Really simple one, really powerful one. Axis means time, and positive emotions and negative emotions. This one's frowning, this one's smiling away. And what you are trying to do, I'll show the small example, that I'm going, or I was in a cinema for the next Star Wars series, for example. Does anybody like Star Wars? Ah, perfect. You're still here. Everybody loves Star Wars. So I've bought the tickets to the Star Wars saga, and I'm looking forward to be there. Then 1 hour before, I'm super excited. Hey, there will be next Star Wars. I'm trying to remember all the episodes before, what had happened before, and really looking forward. So the emotion goes up. Yeah, this one's positive. Emotion goes up. And when I arrived to the cinema, I just figured out that there are so many people, I hate it. It's COVID around, I need to wear the mask, I hate all those people. I don't know if I can feel safety. Then there is moment, we've got really bad seats. because there were some kind of problem with the system and the tickets I've already bought, they are wrong and they are offering me the different seats than I have ordered. So I'm completely pissed off. So negative emotions. And then they gave me complimentary popcorn because of those issues I've just experienced. Okay, complimentary popcorn, we are all Czechs, right? So we are super excited for something for free. And then the movie. And the movie was exciting because Star Wars are always exciting. So the positive emotions. And the peak and rule says, hey, there was something really positive during experiencing self. And there is something at the end for the remembering self. And Daniel Kahneman says that this one, if you are focusing on this particular customer journey, it will be that I will be ambassador, I'll be super happy, I'll be sharing tomorrow with my friends in a pub, hey, the movie was extraordinary, you need to go there too. So to take away from this is don't focus only on the NPS metric, whether they are satisfied as an output for the remembering selves. But try to understand how it went. So for example, for uplifting, it can be when you are sending the first invoice to your new client, maybe a hint for Hansa, just send them also or invite them for the coffee, put them this paper, and could you draw me please your emotions, where were the downsides and the ups? There are no downs in uplifting, I know, everything is up because you're uplifting. And but let them draw it down because it's the information deeper than feedback. Hey, were you satisfied? Yeah, I was satisfied. You are too expensive for me, but you are doing the good job, right? It's not full information. You would like to understand the emotions because those emotions are helping us to build retention and also the new acquisitions of a customer. So peak and rule. So I'm at the end. If you are interested for more tools, I have a lot of them. Go here to showhow.cz or friend me on LinkedIn and just ask for some particular issue you are solving and I can share more tools. Thank you.
Thank you, Dalibor, for a great presentation. And we'll be again taking questions, and please use the Zoom for that. I already checked the Slido from the last meeting. I don't think nothing news there, so just either ask here in the audience or on Zoom in the messages. So any questions? Right, go ahead.
How would you measure emotions for software that you distribute online and never see the customers besides just interviews?
Right, so the question is, how do you measure emotions in software?
Quite hardly, because it's software, right? So the ideal stuff is to arrange a call with them and trying to talk about it, let them draw this also remotely. It's possible, and I think it's the most valuable because a lot of things are hidden between the lines. You can ask about it, right? You just saw my line in the cinema, but when you ask for more details, you can figure it out. It's not so bad. He was just pissed off, but he's the guy who's pissed off all the time, for example. Yeah, he's a temper one. So you can use the stuff like remote testing. There is a platform, usetesting.com, when you can capture the screen and capture the front camera. So during the using or user testing of your software, you can also capture the images of the face, micro expressions, and so on. So it's some kind of indication, but the quality research is the best way how to do it, from my opinion.
Right, thank you very much. Any more questions?
I have a question. Was it valuable, at least small? Yeah. Thank you.
Right. So nobody on the stream, and yeah, go ahead.
What do you think? Is it more important to have high positive peak or higher average score?
Yeah. So the question is whether it's important to have the higher peak in the emotions or a higher average. Go ahead.
According to peak and rule, the first answer is the best one. That means end with the highest strong emotions as possible because it's better for the remembering self than to keep it above average, for example, because it's okay, but you would like to be extraordinary. So finish the peak end rule. That means that according to research, for example, on the call centers, if you ask at the end whether they were satisfied and what you can do for them again, the people way, not the robotic way, it will increase their feeling at the end of the call, and they will be, in general, in average, more satisfied as a users. So.
Okay, still no questions on the stream, right?
I have a two-part question actually. The first part of the question is when you ask your users to draw the line and how happy they were with the software or with the experience, how do you explain what do you want from them? I mean, how do you ensure that they would just draw whatever or just stay below the line because they are thinking of one exact experience that was really negative? And the second one, how do you evaluate it? Like how many drops below the average line do you have so you can say, okay, so this was really bad?
Yeah.
Could you switch it on again, the presentation?
No, we will have a pause between the next presentation, this one.
No, but I'm sharing the screen for the answer of this question.
Oh, sorry. So yeah, the question was about the emotion measurements and how to basically objectivize it, right? So go ahead.
How to explain was the first part. That's the funny part. The tool is quite simple, right? Positive, negative, and whether they use it from this way or this way, it doesn't matter, because for me the tool is the way how to initiate the talk on the deeper detail on the emotions level with the end customer or potential end customer. So that means, yeah, that's nice that there is an output. You can figure it out what it says, but for you is that as an input for the discussion, for the deeper discussion, qualitative discussion with the user. So it doesn't matter from my perspective, because if they use the bottom lines or just scramble it, it doesn't matter. So it was the part first, and the second part was how to evaluate if you have dozens of them. Yeah, this is a tricky question because I believe that this technique is qualitative, not quantitative, which is something probably obvious now. Thank you for that, because I think that there is a missing product or sub-product on the market, so maybe I can program it and make the, how is it called? Heat maps, right? That you can create the heat maps and put something there. Yeah, it's a good idea for a product. Thank you for that. Maybe I'll do it.
Great. So thanks everyone for the questions. If you have any more, don't hesitate to contact Dalibor afterwards. And thanks for the presentation and for great answers. And we, as the next presentation will be mostly about food, let's have a few minutes to have a snack or something, and we'll be here back in about 3 or 5 minutes. Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Right, so take back your seats and we'll be starting shortly. The next presentation is by Martin from Uplifting, and it will be about an internal application that actually became a product, and Martin will tell you all about the journey. So Martin, take it away.
Thank you for introduction. So in the previous talks, you've heard a lot about product development theories. And I would like to talk about a more practical example of an example of product development we are running here in Uplifting. And that product is called Get Snack, and it's actually about the Office Snack Bar. We will use Slido for one poll and then for questions at the end of the presentation. So warm up your phones, scan the barcode, and get ready. So, what is the Office Snack Bar? So this is the photo of a snack bar here in Uplifting in the first floor. And you know that feeling, you are in the middle of something, your energy level goes down, and you need to somehow recover the energy. So you need some snack. So that's why the snack bar in the offices exist. So you have quite instant access to some snacks. You don't need to run into the shop, etc. So they can be like quite fancy, like you can find photos of a Google or Facebook snack bars, or they can be quite simple, even single shelf with some snacks on it. And if the company is small, the operations of a snack bar are small as well. So you need one person who is buying the stuff, putting it on the shelf. For payment, you can live with the glass or a can, or there might be a piece of paper where people are doing like marks, what they taken from the snack bar. And at the end of the month, you have some settlement with back office, and that's it. Or even the snack could be provided for free. But if the company grows up, like it happened in uplifting, we are now 130. We have, in average, 320 purchases per month. The amount which we are turning in our snack bar is 15K Czech crowns per month, and we have listed about 100 plus products in our snack bar. So this really requires some operations. You cannot run it on a paper, otherwise you would need like 2 people to take care of it, and it would not be economical. So we are software studio, so we developed a solution for it. We call it Fridge app. Maybe you have seen our fridge over there. It's part of the snack bar in the corner of the room. The Fridge app has some backend applications, just web application where our back office is managing the stock and it's managing the product list and so on, and it's doing the inventory. And then it has a mobile application where you take product from a snack bar, you scan a barcode, it creates a transaction, and at the end of a month you create a payment and you settle down your account. So we were quite proud of that solution. So we talk about that solution with colleagues from other companies, and we shared a post about that solution on LinkedIn, and it's kind of triggered us to think about developing it as a service, as a product. I have a poll for you now, and I would like to ask you how many of you in your company has a snack bar, and what kind of snack bar it is, or how do you actually solving the problem of access to some snacks quickly in your working day. So if you can use your Slido, I think we should still have somewhere the number, a Slido somewhere. You will see the results. I will be talking about this poll we have done on LinkedIn later on. So you will see the results we have collected as well. So if 5 people voted, let's give it a couple of more seconds. Snack vending machine is quite popular more in corporations, so they are ordering this service from some external company. They put a vending machine in the offices, and you need the coins to put it there, and then you can get it. In companies like of a size of uplifting, it's more a snack bar. Okay, some interesting results. Then compare it with the LinkedIn poll. Thank you for your voting. So as I said, we talk about Fridge app with other companies. We did the post on LinkedIn, and we got a feedback like, hey, this is really cool. We want it. Actually, we are doing the same. We have a paper, we have a can with coins. It's a mess. We are growing. We have more people we cannot manage. So we would really use that product. So we had this conversation, you can see here, with Mrs. Ivana, which provided us with some feedback. And we said, okay, that's a good idea. Why not to try to turn it into the product? But if we want to turn it into the product, we need to do it in a proper way. So first idea was like, we have it, so let's somehow extract it from the uplifting ecosystem and make it as a service. But when we did the analysis, we find out that actually this application is integrated in our so-called core uplifting system, which is our back office system. It has our internal identity. It's quite heavy. It has a lot of features we were not sure it would be valued by the market. So we quickly abandoned that idea and said, okay, we need to start from scratch. It would be too difficult to extract it, and it would be too heavy to experiment with it and to find out what the market would value and what not. So we said, okay, let's start from the very beginning and let's put together our thoughts about the product. So we created a lean canvas. You can see it on a Miro board. So there is a QR code. You can scan it and have an access to our Miro board, how we think about the idea right now. So we formulated the problem, we think about the segments, we think about the solution, and so on. And then we said, okay, we need to somehow validate our thoughts about the product. So what technique we can use? So we decided to do a user research. So we already had a contact for someone who would be interested in a product. We talked to companies who might want the product. So we collected a couple of questions, and we did a questionnaire and then evaluated it. So then we did a guide tour. Guide tour is a good technique if you have access to the people who are running the business already. You would like to somehow improve or automate. And as a coincidence, we have the system in our company already. So we went to our back office and we asked them to give us a guided tour through the process, because there are a lot of processes behind the scene, like the inventory management, inventory counting called cycle count, etc. Then we thought about how we can validate whether there is really the appetite on the market, how the market is, how big the market is. So we did a LinkedIn poll, as I said. We'll talk about it later. And the last technique we used is the fake door technique. So we said, okay, we need to somehow judge the price the market is willing to pay for the product. So how we do that? We will somehow present existing product, we will offer the price, and we will measure how many people click on the offer, and then we will apologize. We will come to that as well later. So what we learned, what user values. So we have two main users. It's a snack bar manager and snack bar user. So what snack bar manager want? They want to have control over the stock, and they want to have an automation of their tasks. So they do not have this heavy lifting, and they can manage snack bars for even bigger companies. User wants simple purchases, avoid cash, avoid paper consumption sheets, and a visibility of consumptions. There was one surprise. We thought that one feature is actually an essential one, and it was a payment. We thought that at the end, the user would want to do a payment in the application. We thought the snack bar manager would want people to pay in the application, and we thought the users wanted to pay in the application. However, such feature is quite difficult to implement. And it's like technically not that difficult, but still it's some work. And as well, it's legally difficult, because if you are collecting payments this way in an application as a company from employees, then you are in a position like you are selling food. And most of companies like us are not in the business of selling food. We are developing software. So we find out that actually this feature was not named by the users as the biggest pain. So with a relief, we could cut it out of the scope, at least for the beginning. So what we learned from the guided tour. So even in our current implementation, mostly the stock management and the cycle counting and inventory is done in web application. It would be much more easier if it be done by the mobile application. So today, the operations needs to count new arriving stock or existing stock, search the product in the web page, and then enter the number. In the future, it would be much easier if they take the product, scan it, and put there the quantity in the application. So this is actually the use case which covers both stock replenishment and the cycle count. So how to measure the size of the market? As you see, those are exactly the same questions we had in our poll at the beginning, and those are the results. We had like almost 3,000 views of this post. Only 55 votes, but still it's quite a good number. Statistically, 55 is not that bad. And what we learned, actually, we have like 31% of respondents said that actually they have no solution. It's up to them. And another 31 says we have self-service bar, free or paid. So it's like 60% of respondents are actually are potential clients, which is not that bad. So there is some appetite on the market to use the product, but for how much money? So that's where we used the failure technique, as I said. So this was our landing page. We had one for UK, one for Germany, and one for Czech Republic. And in UK and Germany, we offered only a team plan. In Czech Republic, we as well offered the enterprise plan. The reason was that there are those legal implications with the settlement, and we didn't want it to solve those legal implications even for UK and Germany, so we first solved them for Czech Republic, and we measured mainly the enterprise plan in Czech Republic. But as this presentation is in English, I use the English version. So on the landing page, there was the description of a product, nice and fancy. There was a plan, and if a user clicked on a chose plan, we kind of apologized, like, yeah, thanks for your interest, but we are not there yet. Leave us your email, and we will let you know once we are ready. And what was the result? So we did a campaign in Facebook and Instagram. We invested 2,000 crowns, not a big amount. The campaign was running from 19th of September to 3rd of October, so quite short one. We let that running for more time, so we were collecting some organic growth. So we were measuring data from 1st of September to 31st of November 2021. And during that time, we collected 655 visits, and actually 52 people clicked like try the application, and 46 clicked on like buy the plan. So in a way, we achieved 7% conversion, which is not that bad. So we were kind of motivated by those results. So we know that probably there will be the demand on the market. We know that the price we've chosen is kind of right. We can work with that price. So we said, okay, what's the next move? The data are nice, but the question was there already. Are they statistically relevant? We don't know. We just have an indication. So the next move was actually to build an MVP. But we didn't want it actually to invest too much money. So we did an internal hackathon, and the idea was like, hey, in 2 days, let's develop something which we can really release and give to users to use it. And let's measure how it will fly on the market, whether it will sell, what will be the feedback, and learn from the operations, etc. But to develop an application in 2 days, we really needed to find out the absolutely minimum scope. We could not develop anything which is not absolutely essential. So we said, okay, we need to cut out all backend. No backend can be there because it would be too difficult to develop in 2 days. We need to cut out all the stock management. So one of the key features which stock managers would be, like Stingbar managers would be looking for, won't be there. And we need to cut out payments we knew already, because this is not that important feature. It's really difficult. So what remains was only the transaction management. So list of transactions user is actually collecting. So user can come there, create a purchase, scan the barcode, or select, if the barcode is not scannable, select the product from the list and create a transaction. And that's it. Really simple, and we developed it for Android and for iOS. So if you remember what Roman was talking about, the Wizard of Oz, actually this is kind of Wizard of Oz, because this application is kind of simple, but behind the scene there needs to be something more, and I will talk about that. So what technologies we use? Technologically speaking, a native iOS application, native Android application. We based everything, all the backend on Firebase, because you get many things out of the box, like login screen, all the identity, quite easy database behind, a lot of functions which can actually work as a backend behind, and we use SendGrid for sending emails. So, but we were so enthusiastic about the minimalistic feature we were dreaming about, but well, hey, it's not everything. If you would like to launch a service, it's not only those 3 or 4 screens. There must be something more, some end-to-end process. So we were too optimistic, and now we see that actually it's good that a user can create a new snack bar in the application for enrollment of a snack bar, but we need to somehow let that user to populate a product catalog with the prices, but we don't have any functionality there. So we actually developed a functionality, and when a snack bar is created, we send an email to the user with a template in Excel file. We ask the user to fill it in and send us this back, and we will upload it manually for them. The same for invitation into the snack bar. So when the snack bar manager wants to invite people into the snack bar so they can create transactions, purchases, they need to talk to us, and we will manually do it for them. So this was kind of complexity we haven't seen at the beginning, we haven't seen it at the hackathon, and we actually had to work on it later. The second thing was legal. We thought it will be simple. Yeah, we just release the application. But hey, actually, if you are doing something like that, you are actually in a contractual situation, because there is a customer there. Even if it will be in the beginning for free, it's still, they might have some expectations, it's some service, so we need to have some terms and conditions. And we need to have user privacy policy. So this was kind of something which were slowing us down a little bit with the release. So where we are now, we are done with the product. We are almost done with the terms and conditions and user policies, and we believe that we will release the application to the app stores beginning of next week, and we will start collecting our first feedback from the real market. We will offer the application for free for 4 months, and then we hope we will improve it based on the feedback, and then we will start turning people on the pay plan, or we will leave them on a free plan, which would have some limited features. So if you like to see our landing page or would like to get some news about the application, scan the barcode and QR code and let us know, and leave us your email. So that's all about the GetSnack, and time for your questions. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentations. I'll be watching the Slido for any questions. And I saw already a question there, so go ahead.
I have 2 questions.
2 questions.
First one is, you talked at the beginning about payment,
Uh-huh.
and you calculate it in the app. How do you fix it in the end?
We fix it the way that we just don't implement it, because we are sending the report of transactions to the snack bar manager at the end of each month, and they do the settlement any way they like. So in Czech law, if you are an employer, you can provide the food to employees as a benefit and subtract it from salaries if the employees agrees with that. And then you are not in a position of a company selling food. So that's the way how we would like to solve it. And in the future, we would, of course, provide more functionalities like a web page where they can download the report on demand, or even integrate it with their systems, whatever we will develop in the future. Nowadays in the MVP, the Excel file sending at the end of each month have to do.
So basically it's a discussion of each company, how they collect them.
Yes.
Thank you. And the second one is, you talked about the barcodes on the individual items.
Mm-hmm.
Does it mean that the stock manager or whoever has to put their barcode on every single item that they put in the bar?
Yes, yes. Yeah. And of course, we currently have our 100 plus barcodes as a product. And when we are sending this template to snack bar managers, we are sending it populated with all the products we have in our current snack bar, and they can just populate the prices and of course delete what they don't want and add what they want. So we have some barcodes pre-populated for them already. And in the future, we might think about like services, like if they somehow search the product somewhere, we will fetch the barcode for them. But again, it's might be on the roadmap somewhere in a year time or something like that.
But it's still like a requirement for manual work,
Yes.
selection of some printing paper.
Yeah. To create a product catalog really requires that they need to type in the barcode and product description, price, and so on. And yeah.
Thank you.
Right, so we don't have any questions on the Slido.
Mhm.
So any more questions in the audience? No? No questions? Okay, in that case, I have a question. You talked about the fake door approach, which is kind of similar to the Wizard of Oz Roman mentioned earlier. What I would like to ask you about is, how do you view the ethical side of this approach? Like, when you tell the customer you have it, and then the customer finds out that you don't, but
Yeah.
they can give you the email.
Yeah, the fake door is actually quite controversial technique. That's true, because you are promising something and then you are apologize, it doesn't work. You can even lose some customers because they will never come back because they will be really like not happy about that. On the other hand, at the beginning, you do not do a massive campaign. You would not tell every people in the country that you are launching the product. Yeah, you do really focused small campaign, and we hope when we are doing this technique that we talk to early adapters community, and the early adapters community usually is kind of able to tolerate that some kind of discomfort. And they get the promise that if they leave us an email, that eventually we will come back to them and we will offer the service later. So.
Okay, thanks. So, any more questions? Anyone in the audience? Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, you mentioned some tools that you are using for the product,
Mm-hmm.
and they would get paid when the time comes, because you are using them, and you may become viable to the subscription to its tools.
Mm-hmm.
So, did you count with that in your business plan, and do you validate that at the time it will be profitable, you will be able to pay for all those tools?
So the question was whether you validated whether the tools you already use, which are right now free but will be paid in the future, are already incorporated in the business plan.
If you have a look at our Miro page, which is at the beginning about lead canvas, and it didn't fit into the slide, if you scroll down in Miro, you will see a kind of business plan. So we have some estimate of operational cost and infrastructure cost, and there is some estimate where we have a break even, how many subscribers we need to get actually profitable. So yeah, we thought about that. Of course, the estimates are just like high-level estimates at this phase. Yeah. Any more questions?
No more questions, it seems. Nothing in the Slido, I think. Yeah. Nothing in the Slido. So thank you very much for the presentation. Thank you very much for attending. We will not be having the panel discussion that was promised earlier because we were a bit longer than we expected, and Dalibor needed to leave early. And so thank you very much for attending, and see you next time and at the next Product Crew Talk. Thanks.
Thank you.
You have a nice evening.